Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's still very much morning here in the Pacific Northwest. It is after 7 and the sun is still kind of thinking about getting up, not really quite there yet. But I got up extra early because I wanted to shoot this video. I want to talk today about the future of Eat, Pray, Love, those video series that I was doing and kind of what comes next. I really loved doing those videos, so for those of you who maybe may not have seen them, I was doing this video series that was based off of Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Eat, Pray, Love, and so the idea was that each video was either about eat, pray, or love, so it was all about kind of figuring out how to take care of yourself from like a physical, emotional, and mental standpoint, which is kind of along the lines of what Gilbert's book is about as well. And I really love those topics. Those are things that I'm still really passionate about, and those concepts behind the channel are not going to change. But there was something that just kind of felt a little bit amiss about doing those videos. I think partially because Eat, Pray, Love is so like intrinsically just part of Elizabeth Gilbert's voice now, which isn't to say that she hasn't like shared that message with the world and she isn't open about like other people participating in their own Eat, Pray, Love journeys, but it just kind of felt like it wasn't like totally mine. And then also the other piece of it is that I think that I kind of had this epiphany this week of how those things come together, and this kind of like message that better encapsulated the lesson that I've kind of been learning in the past year and a half, couple years since graduating. And so I wanted to kind of share that with you guys. Not kind of share that with you guys, I wanted to share that with you guys. But that would just be, I kind of want to tell the backstory to it. So when I came back to Oregon, I accepted a job working for a company that manages senior living communities. So even though I'm working in the office and doing mainly administrative work, our company itself is a company that is full of people who work with elders and people who are experiencing, like people who are going through the stages of dementia every day. And so earlier in this week, I got to go to this training that was all about how to communicate better with people who are experiencing dementia. And one of the things that happened was I was in this room of people, and the majority of people there were administrators, nurses, all people who are working every day with the people who are living in these communities, or they're working with them in home, etc. And there was a moment where there was kind of a lull in the training, and this one woman shared a story about a gentleman who had lived in her community who responded to music, and the story of discovering for the first time the song that he had loved from his childhood, and the way that he just lit up inside, and it lit up the entire staff, and basically like started this song and dance party in the middle of their dining room parlor there in the community. And as soon as she told that story, it just opened up this whole room, and everyone started sharing these incredible stories that they had about people in their communities, and stories of music and laughter and like all of this stuff. And the woman who was leading the training, who was herself a nurse, kind of just smiled and nodded, and she said, yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? This is really all about finding that joy in the everyday. And everybody just kind of like nodded and smiled, and that just like made my heart happy, and it just made me think like, yes, that is such a difficult lesson, I feel like, and it's something that you have to work on every single day, but that's really what I have kind of found to be the only thing that has kept me going through this tough transition period after school, has been that idea of finding the joy in every day. And it's a project. It's a project in that some days you need to take care of your mental health, and you need to do certain things that can help support your mental health. And other days you need to really focus on your physical health. and then other days you need to focus on your emotional health. And then where it gets really complicated is that all of those things are kind of tied together. So if you're not feeling emotionally healthy, it's much, much harder to take care of yourself physically, and vice versa. And then if you're not feeling mentally healthy, then it's really hard to get emotionally healthy because you're not mentally healthy. So I just think that all of those things, the way that they tie together is so interesting and fascinating, but it's also so difficult and so complicated sometimes. And it's something that we really we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it even in university. Often I found that the focus was really on improving your mental ability and your problem solving skills and all of these things, and that's great, but there were so many pieces of like learning how to actually take care of myself as an adult that I missed. Maybe I just missed the memo, but there were a lot of things that I just feel like we don't talk about it, and adults often don't talk about it. At least in my experience, I kind of felt like I got like into the realm of adulthood where it's like, okay, you're no longer a college kid, welcome to the real world, figure your shit out, kind of a thing. And I was just kind of like, I have no idea how to cope with 8-hour workdays. I have no idea how to cope with learning how to stay fit while I'm having 8-hour workdays. Like, just all of these things. And so I think that the lesson that I have really learned from going through all of that is that, like I said, the thing that keeps me going is finding that joy in the everyday. So I want to do something that is more, I want to do a video series that still continues along the lines of the ideas of Eat, Pray, Love in terms of things that I've found to be personally helpful when it comes to mental, emotional, and physical health. But I think that it needs to not be separated into eat, pray, and love, because I think it needs to be this concept of something that is holistic and something that you really have to think about, all the time. For example, I really love to run. That's something that helps me to feel mentally healthy and physically healthy. And then there are some days where I just have been so overwhelmed from whatever it is that has gone on in the day that I need to go home and I need to just like curl up and read a book and go to bed. And like that counts as taking care of myself too, And so I think that oftentimes we are taught by society that there are these things that we're supposed to do to take care of ourselves, whether it's staying fit or whether it's meditating or any of these things that are supposed to help make us healthier. And pretty soon we get into this mentality of like, I have to do this thing in order to be healthy. And then we start to make ourselves unhealthy in other areas of our lives because we sacrifice the other things that we need to be healthy in order to achieve this one thing. We get kind of these single-minded goals in our minds. I was just talking to a woman the other day who works in my office, and she's a crazy hard worker. She's working so hard right now, and she temporarily has more than one job, and she also has kids at home. She has a family, and she started off the year really strong with going to the gym almost every day, and she was venting to me and just telling me that like she felt like she was frustrated and she felt like she was slacking. She used that word slacking because she hadn't been to the gym in the past few days. And in my mind, from my perspective, I was like, oh my gosh, like the fact that she even goes to the gym at all when she has a family to take care of and when she has multiple jobs and all this stuff, like that is incredible to me. But from her perspective, from within her own mind, it felt like she was slacking because she was telling herself that she should be doing more to take care of her physical health, right? And that isn't to say that like you should give up on one piece of your health at any given time, but it just means that like I think that we all need to go a little bit easier on ourselves. And I think too that if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not kind of having that empathy and that understanding that like some days you just need a break, or some days you need to just like cancel your plans with friends and go on a run because it's what you need, whatever that is. I think that when you don't have that for yourself, it's really hard to look around and have that for other people. And sadly, I see the symptoms of that, especially when it comes to what's going on in our political universe in the United States right now, is that there is this really big rift and divide that has grown between people. I think that isn't to say that like self-care is the one and only thing that's going to solve and fix all of that, but I think that the fact that it has been so lacking in our kind of vernacular and culture is a big part of why we're seeing such a big rift and divide, is because like that's where our empathy comes from. And if we don't have the ability to think about those things, it's harder to empathize with people. So, to wrap things up, that's what I want to do going forward, is to put the Eat, Pray, Love videos and ideas and content into one type of video series, and I want to come up with a hashtag or a name for it. So I've kind of been throwing around ideas like the Happy Project or Project Happiness or something along those lines, because I want it to kind of capture that idea that like this is an everyday project that you do, but it's also something that brings you a lot of joy. So it's fun to participate in even when it's difficult. I haven't totally decided on like the perfect hashtag yet. So if you have thoughts, definitely leave them in the comments below, and I'll keep thinking on it and come back to you hopefully next week with a new video.